Come, let us explore the 31st chapter of the Tao Te Ching. Weapons are the tools of violence. All decent men detest them. As a boy, it is very easy when at an air show or at a museum, when I see a jet, a combat jet or a combat helicopter, it's so easy to forget that it is an instrument of death and just be gobstruck at the technological beauty of this space, of this aircraft that I'm looking at. But once I take my eyes off the engine or off the rotor blades and I see the Gatling guns or I see the bomb bay doors, well, then I remember this isn't just a cool looking neato machine. This is an instrument of death. No, thank you very much. And so there is something within all of us. All healthy mammals have not only a limbic system, but within our limbic system, an empathy center. And for those of us who are healthy, who are neither psychopaths nor sociopaths, it is wired into us. It is part of us. And so we do not have to force ourselves to be compassionate. We don't have to force ourselves to care for the health and happiness of others. It is already hardwired into us. Evolution has selected for it. Weapons are the tools of fear. A decent man will avoid them, except in the direst necessity, and if compelled, will use them only with the utmost of restraint. The dichotomy of these two verses has given many people pause over the millennia. How is one to know when it is time to defend oneself or one's kin or one's neighbors or one's country? The path of yang would have you either in a scattered manner, do whatever one's bloodlust or one's leaders tell one to do, or in one's contrivance, work out complex formulas for ethics. However, on the yin path of matriarchy, we have a way to solve this, which is as simple as it is elegant. By maintaining a state of centered spontaneity that we cultivate through awareness and acquiescence. The passivity or defense happens automatically. Our only decision is to pursue the path of centered spontaneity. And our flow state that comes from that determines our course of action. Now, you might say, I'm kind of cagey about this whole flow state thing. I'm scared I might make a mistake. Don't be scared. It's a certitude. You will. You will make a mistake. What separates the men from the boys and the women from the girls is not if they make a mistake. It's what they do with their mistake. Do they respond to the mistake by jumping back into yang, back into contrivance, back into scatteredness? Or do they respond to their mistakes non-conceptually, vulnerably, practicing even greater mindfulness and acquiescence? If we allow ourselves to feel whatever we feel when we witness the results of whatever mistakes we make, the more vulnerable we are, the more centered we are, the more acquiescent we are, the more dramatically and rapidly and profoundly we will evolve. Let's continue. Peace is his highest virtue. And let's explore this masculine pronoun. There are many translations of the Tao Te Ching. I am not a linguist. The translation by Stephen something, I forgot his last name, Stephen Mitchell, I think, upon which this adaptation is based. Stephen Mitchell's translation is one of my favorites. One of the many reasons is because every chapter he flip-flops between male pronouns and female pronouns. Now, clearly, that is not going to reverse the multiple millennia of female oppression, but I feel that it is an important gesture to say we choose to be less sexist. We choose to grow and evolve. I think that's an important gesture to make. But it's also important to realize it's just a gesture. Let's continue. Peace is his highest value. If the peace has been shattered, how can he be content? Even from within the flow state, one's centeredness is maintained, and consequently, one is not given to bloodlust. If a man or woman of the Tao defends themselves, their kin, their neighbors, a stranger, it is natural for them to feel conflicted afterwards. And they bring that heaviness, that conflict, that residue with them into their meditation, not to scrub it off, but they allow themselves to be aware of it and be acquiescent with it and allow it to fuel their continued evolution. His enemies are not demons, but human beings like himself. He does not wish them personal harm. I'm a big fan of neuroscience. One of my favorite neuroscientists is Sam Harris. One of his most recent books is Free Will. I recommend everyone buy that. I do not earn any money, just recommending his book. Within every brain, within every body, is the potential for every emotion, every attitude, every action, good or bad, wise or foolish, beautiful or ugly. And most of us, arguably all of us, have less control than we think over our choices, over what we do with our mind and our communication and our body. And if we are not someone who has committed atrocities, we should count ourselves fortunate and lucky and be profoundly compassionate to those who were caught in a domino chain of events that push them in remarkably unfortunate directions. Clearly, we do not look at someone who has a virulent disease as if they were a villain. Although if their disease is truly virulent, we probably put them in medical isolation to minimize the amount of that they would infect others. Likewise with violent criminals, although it's best not to consider ourselves superior to them, and it is best to cultivate compassion to them, they must be Society must be protected from them. They do not need to be punished, but they need to be treated so that they can rejoin society in a more harmless, beneficial manner. This is explored remarkably well in Michael Moore's movie, Where to Invade Next. Once again, I make no money from this recommendation, but I do recommend it. Let's continue. Nor does he rejoice in victory. How could he rejoice in victory and delight in the slaughter of others? He enters a battle gravely, with sorrow, and with great compassion, as if he were attending a funeral. There are times when we have the very bad fortune of losing control of our choices or our verbiage, our behaviors. There are other times when we don't lose control of those three things. It is so very important not to gloat, not to be self-righteous or sanctimonious, but to sincerely help and to treat all living beings as if they were our siblings. Not necessarily our healthy siblings, but our siblings. And if we can't help them directly, perhaps we can reach out to someone who can help them. And if we can't do that, we can at least cherish their well-being and their evolution. And perhaps consider the phrase, for want of a better term, or if I may paraphrase, there, but for the grace of happenstance, go I. Let us have great big hearts and very flexible minds. My name is Lama Jigme Gyatso, and this is the Buddha Joy Meditation School.